Okay. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Vedic Psychology, Class 17. Today we're on our favorite topic, manas. So we're going to review the main points from last week, and then we're going to have a group discussion. I'm going to ask you guys some questions about what you did over the week, if you got a chance to sattvasize any of your senses. And then we're going to do question and answer like I promised. So any questions you have about manas, because we studied it for a long time. Do you see the cat? That's manas. He's curious about something. So more on manas. So a review of the main points. So manas is driven by our senses, right? Our 5 senses. And you've heard of that saying, curiosity killed the cat? Have you guys heard of that saying? There's a saying in the US at least, maybe also in South America, curiosity killed the cat. And you've also heard that cats have 9 lives. Have you heard that? You know, so they're so curious. So if you look in this picture, like by the sense of sight, the cat's like, oh, what's in that bag? You know, there could be something, it doesn't even care, it just jumps inside the bag, you know. I used to have a cat, and when my cat did that, like when I came back from grocery shopping, I had a bag like that, and the cat went in there, and I picked the bag up with the handles, and the cat was in it. You know? It's so easy to catch a cat, and it was like, ah, because it's not thinking, is that a good idea to go in the bag or not? It's just following its sense of sight. Oh, that's so interesting, you know. And it always gets in trouble. And then the next one, probably this was like maybe there was water coming out of that, or maybe there was heat coming out of that. There was something on the outside of the house that was draining out of that. So I'm thinking maybe it was a sense of touch if it was heat, you know, but I don't know what it was, but something was attracted to it, and it was so curious that it had to wedge its face in that, you know. And my sister also, she has a cat now. And that cat is so curious. He has more than 9 lives, you know. And one time she called me and she's like, he was out like for too long. Like, where is he? He's not coming home. During the day she'd let him out, you know. And it turned out he had probably was chasing something, and he was in the sewer, like he fell into the sewer drain, and they couldn't get him out. And he was like, you know. But the thing is that then he made it out, and then he was on to his next adventure. I mean, the reason I keep using a cat as an example is they don't really learn from their mistakes, and they just keep acting on their senses. Curiosity really does kill the cat, you know, but they have 9 lives for some reason, you know. But I've seen them do the craziest things, you know. We grew up in my family having cats. That's also why I always use them as the example, because they do the craziest and stupidest things, you know. It's like also the sense of smell. If you leave like a cup out on the table, you know, just say with a drink in it, they'll come and shove their face in it and like lick it, and you know, just because it's interesting to them, you know. So this is a good analogy in my mind when I think of what our manas does if the other parts of our mind aren't working, you know. So we've really been hyper-focusing just on how manas behaves without the other parts of the mind, you know. Eventually we'll look at the whole picture. Okay, so review the main points. Remember this one? I strangled a hamster. Oops, you know, he doesn't even care. So the main points from last week were that our 5 senses ultimately are the gateway to our suffering. And the reason why I say ultimately is because it doesn't feel like we're suffering when we have the sense of like, you know, we smell a rose oil. Ooh, I like that. I like that. So why would that be suffering? That's not suffering until the rose oil runs out and I can't get any more, right? And then it's like, I want that rose oil. How am I going to get more rose oil, you know? Well, it's in France, you know, or something like that. So eventually it ends in suffering, even if it starts out as a like, the sense of like for one of your senses. The emotional manas causes us to act spontaneously on our likes and dislikes. That's what I was just saying in the slide before, and that's what we've all experienced when we were using our 5 senses, right? Oh, I like that, I want more. Oh, I don't like that, that smells horrible, and you push it away, you know? So it's very spontaneous how it acts. And manas has no ability to deliberate upon right from wrong. So just imagine you sattvasize your sense of, all 5 of your senses, okay? You've they're all in the mode of sattva. It does not mean that you can now deliberate. Manas doesn't have that ability, it's 0. It's no matter how good you're doing, even if everything's in sattva, you're eating the beautiful sattvic food, you're eating in a calm, peaceful way, you're smelling only sattvic scents, your whole room is white, all of your clothes are white, everything, you know, this every sense. Still, you're going to act spontaneously on your likes and dislikes. It's just that you'll choose the sattvic things. So that's important to realize, you know, that you'll act for the sattvic things, you know. But so eventually when you learn the other parts of the mind, then you'll see how the other parts, there's only one part of the mind that can control the other 3 parts. And it's not manas. Manas is just like, dislike, like, dislike, like, dislike. So you like more sattvic things. That's the best we can hope for by sattvasizing the senses. Okay? So Manas also has no moral compass, and that's this picture of the cat, you know. He's like, oh, I strangled a hamster, but you know what? He's going to go do it. As soon as you let him out of jail, he'll do it again. Because he likes hamsters, because they run around and it's fun to chase them and kill them. You know? And we suffer from the unintended consequences of our actions. That was that whole story I told about my sister, you know, last week, how she left her light on and she wasn't thinking about the unintended consequences of that. And my dad like hammered her on that so she would think, you know, how that affects society at large and all this stuff. But the main point is that happens all the time with our manas. If we let our manas go unhinged, we're never thinking how I'm going to affect the other person or how am I going to even affect myself. We're just like, oh, I like that, I'm going to go get that. Oh, I hate that, I push that away, you know. So those are kind of a lot of the main points from last week. Also, then I talked about how to manage our moody manas, right? What can we do? Knowing that it is spontaneously always acting on what it likes and avoiding what it dislikes, you know, what can we do? So then we talked about the sattvasizing our senses, right? Uplifting their manas into this state of sattva to facilitate having a calm and peaceful mind. And I was calling it emotional hygiene. Like, how can you clean your senses, basically? By reducing this rajas and tamas that you're putting into your five senses and increasing the sattva, right? And so I was suggesting trying this past week, a daily practice of first noticing step one, what state of mind you're in, sattva, rajas, or tamas, and then nurturing and choosing one sense to do that with. So the first step was introspecting and just watching, noticing. Then an honest self-assessment, because sometimes we're not honest. We're like, I'm totally sattvic. It's like, well, maybe with one of your senses, but maybe not, you know. And then that's why I was saying you could get feedback from others. So if you're like, I think I'm really sattvic, my I don't know, sense of sight, you know, everything I'm wearing is very sattvic, and someone might be like, well, you are wearing light colors, but they're dirty, or something, you know, because there's lots of things about sattva, you know. So that's why I was saying, do the best to notice on your own, but then also get some feedback from people you're close to who you won't feel hurt if they tell you the truth, you know. And then the next step is nurture. So once you know, okay, I've got to really work on my sense of sight, that's the one I want to work on the most. So then you want to change the input into your sense of sight. That was the example I used, right, where I showed you a whole map of how you could do it, right, by increasing the sattvic inputs and decreasing the rajasic and tamasic. So that's kind of a summary, right? And that was the homework. I'm not going to read through it because I told you guys it last week, but I just had it there in case we need to refer back to it. So that was the example, right? And then I wanted to have a group discussion with you guys. If anybody, either on Zoom or sitting in here, wants to share how was your experience sattvasizing one of your senses. And the questions I have are, what sense did you sattvasize? What part, if any, was difficult to implement if you did it? And what part was easy? And then what did you notice about how your manas reacted to the change? And if you didn't do it, what got in your way? You know, sometimes everybody's going to say I'm busy, but sometimes it may be something more subtle, you know, like it's not so easy to change, actually. Because if you really want something, somehow it happens. You can make it happen if you really, really wanted something. Like if somebody showed you like some amazing chocolate cake and you just got one bite, but you're like, where did you get that? And they're like, oh, it's actually half an hour away. You might figure out a way to get it. So this is not easy to sattvasize your sense because we have samskaras, we have a program that we just run on, and that works for us. That's why we're doing it, you know. So it's also good to even say, well, I didn't do it because of this, and maybe even introspect on what was blocking you. And maybe if some people in the group did do it, you might feel inspired by hearing what they did. Maybe there's something they did where they just did a small piece. Not. Sometimes we get overwhelmed and we just say, it's too much, I can't do it. I'll do it later, you know. So does anybody want to share? I can't see, can you see the people on? Okay, so if you are raising your hand and you want to share, Vilas will call on you. And if anybody in the audience, anybody sitting here wants to share, you can share. Okay, so make sure you get the mic. Kamala's going to share. Is that one of the broken one?
Okay. I try to sattvize.
Sattvasize. It's like
Sattvasize.
Sattvasize.
Sattvasize my mind by reducing the rajas.
Okay, you try to reduce rajas for what sense?
For the eye.
For the eyes. Okay.
So in my room, I was very messy. Sorry to say, but it was really messy. So I try to rearrange the things in a way that by looking I feel more peaceful, and then I know where the things are there, and then also making a mega cleaning, and then I found that the effect was immediate. You feel like I felt like, oh wow, looks nicer, looks more clean, and it's so nice to be in this space. So,
okay, good. So what did you feel? That was what you thought. How did it affect your manas in terms of a feeling? What feeling came when you realized, oh, this is a nice clean space, this feels
comfortable and
comfortable?
Yeah, comfortable.
And what else?
And also peaceful, harmonious, and feel good.
Very good. And how did that affect you in terms of your day?
Oh, I like to sit there and be. I was looking around. I was satisfied.
Ooh, look at my Sattvasized room.
That all my books were better, and then I utilized better the space. And
very good.
It was easier to keep it clean.
Did it affect your mind in terms of, because you said when your mind's peaceful, did it make you, when things were like more organized, did it also make you think more clearly? Or was it just that you felt kind of more calm?
Yeah, more like a feeling.
More feeling.
More feeling like I felt calm and comfortable in my
relaxed.
space. Yeah, relaxed.
Very good job.
Yeah. This I
wonderful.
Experienced.
Thank you. So you reduced rajas, right? Because the rajas was kind of like hectic and chaotic and messy, and that then you didn't have to increase sattva. That's how to increase sattva, basically, right?
By
reducing rajas, then sattva came up because you got organized. So did you organize and clean, or both?
First, I make a revolution. I remove the table from here. I put it in the other room. Then I put all my cloth. Socks with socks and this with that, and everything was like that. You open the cupboard, wow, everything organized. You can understand what is there. Before was all like that.
Very good.
And also my papers and medicine. I mean, a mess was a really mess. And then I make a small little table instead of bigger. Reduce the size of the table so I can pass without hurting myself all the time in the corner of the table, and then my cloth on the chairs here and there.
Yeah, folding everything, putting away. So you got very organized. So life can just flow so easily for you now. Probably saves time when you're like, oh, now I know exactly where my socks are and my clothes. And what about cleaning? Did you also like wash and scrub things down?
No, I changed my bed sheets. I put nice colors.
Wow.
That I like it, and then this type of things.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Good job. Very good job. And so you said it was immediate effect. So as soon as you did it, you were like,
immediately effect,
comfortable and calm.
Yeah.
Good job. Excellent. It's powerful. Even though it seems so simple, it's very powerful. When we talk about it. And then when you do it, how did you feel when you were doing it?
Good.
Empowered, kind of? Or?
No, in the beginning I didn't know what to decide. I started to move things, and then I asked somebody to help, but they didn't come because it was lunchtime. Then I decided to do it anyway. So I start to move things, and then obviously you have to clean, because when you move something,
all the dust and
the dust is coming, and then So.
And so the feeling you had when you were doing it?
Oh, like I'm in action, trying to improve.
So the feeling was?
Feeling was like, I'm good. I'm
confident.
Confident.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Good job. Thank you for sharing. Being brave enough to be the first person to share. Good. Okay. Was there any part that was difficult to implement, Kamala? Any part that was difficult to implement? Or was it the whole thing pretty easy?
Difficult? Not really.
Okay.
No, not something like specially to make difficult.
So once you got it in your mind you're going to do it, it just it flowed.
Yeah, it flowed.
Nice. Very good. Okay. Thank you.
I also asked to Jaya, because she came in the middle of the operation, and she also gave some
her
ideas.
Advice on how to sattvasize. Nice.
Yeah.
The Sattvasize
She
consultant,
came
Jaya.
exactly when I was in the middle of the mess.
Nice. Okay. Anyone else want to share, either online or in the group? Okay.
So, Bhushanji, you are the first.
Okay, Bhushanji, what do you have?
Could you please unmute your microphone?
Is there a way I could put it so I could see them? Or, hold on. Will it ruin the slides if I put
Yeah,
it?
sure.
Oh.
Yeah, Haribol.
Haribol, Bhushan?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on a train, so I hope it doesn't get cut before I finish. So this week I tried to do like eliminating rajas and improving sattva. So after work, already rajas is very high. So I took a walk outside, like 1 hour, 2 hours, and I put my headphones on and listened to like 1 hour, two classes of for dark and cold. I still did that, but I had so much feelings and just so I could kind of spend that energy and at the same time also listen to classes. And that had a very good effect on me. I felt calm, I had a good sleep. Also, my mind was on classes and so on, so that was very helpful. But I also failed in doing that on Friday because Friday it was not just judges for stomachs because I was also very, very tired because of situations. And when I was tired, I could not go for walks. And I should have just slept. Instead of sleeping, I pushed and tried to kind of stay awake and watch YouTube videos and then went back to my old thing. There was too much sometimes I should have just slept and that was one way to reduce it. But I did. I just tried to fight it and it did not work well.
Okay, so tell me again, what was, it's kind of hard to hear you, so just, can you tell me what, I think I'm hearing like a background. Are you guys hearing a background? Is it the train?
Yeah, I'm in the train, sorry.
Okay, so what sense did you Sattvasize? Did you say your sense of hearing? You Sattvasize your sense of hearing, did you say, when you went on a walk?
No, this is the sense of hearing. Sense of circumcise the sense of hearing and also reduce measures by walking. Yeah.
You Sattvasize the sense of hearing and what by walking?
Hearing is right. Circumcise
Hearing, okay. And then
and reducing rajas by walking.
reduce rajas by walking? How does that reduce
Yeah, like
walking?
exercise.
So exercise reduced your rajas.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's stick with just one thing. So the sense of hearing.
I would say hearing, sense of hearing.
And what did you listen to?
Babaji's classes.
Okay. So that definitely is going to Sattvasize, right? So how did you feel when you did that?
Well, I feel great, but very high spirits, very high spirits. I felt calm. I felt I had a good sleep. Things were organized. Everything went very well.
Okay.
I wasn't disturbed the next day.
So you had a lasting effect by listening to Babaji's class when you were walking. It sounded like it lasted more than just the walk. It put you in this kind of calm mood for even the next day, did you say?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Good job, Bhushan. Very good. Have you?
Except for Friday when I could not.
Okay. Let's just stick on the kind of positive for now. When have you tried to listen to Babaji's class before when not walking and seen the effect?
No. I mean, I have listened to it, but in this case, I used to kind of sleep and listen a little bit, but when
So, I mean, but you've sat in Babaji's class before, right?
but now when I'm walking, it's yes.
So what's the difference if you're just sitting and listening and not sleeping, but just sitting and listening versus walking and listening to your mind? What's the difference in the mood?
Well, the difference is that I guess when I'm sitting, I still feel restless.
Okay.
And when I'm walking, I don't feel restless.
That's interesting. Very interesting. So by walking, you were able to kind of exhaust the excess rajas, and that kind of calmed and grounded you so you could listen and focus more closely on Babaji's class? Okay, good, Bhushan. Very good. Wonderful. So was it difficult to implement any part of that for you?
So it was because on Friday I was feeling extremely tired and I could not implement it. My mind was somewhere else. I could not hear, I was not able to focus, focus properly. Somehow or other I could finish the work, but instead of sleeping, I started watching YouTube videos. So
Wait,
that was
I think you're talking about something different.
Okay.
So did you do this 2 different days,
Yeah.
or is this only one example you're talking about?
No, I did it every day except one day.
Right, so I just want to talk about the positive, the day it worked for you, that's all. Not the days it didn't work. So,
Yeah.
we're just on that one example,
No,
okay.
it was good. Yeah, so that it was no problem. I was just looking.
Okay, so there's nothing difficult about it the day that you did it, then you had the success, or the days you did it.
No.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for sharing, and especially on the train. Thank you for participating.
No problem.
Okay. Who else? Does anybody in the group want to share, or should we just go with online? Did anybody else? Okay, Krishna Das, and then we'll come back to who's online.
Yeah, we was sattvatizing. Sattvasizing the site and
Sense of sight.
yeah, the sense of sight, because I feel that this really need to work on my side. So the first day we arranged the whole house, like we asked for cleaning, and especially there is one corner in one of the balconies that have a lot of pigeons that they come and have babies there, and we usually have like a lot of families that come there. So now we realize that there are no more eggs, so put them all away, and I start to put like some spikes and cleaning, and it really helpful, super helpful. And
how did that affect you? Just that change, cleaning there. How did it affect your mind in terms of your feelings?
No, it just feel like heaven.
It's like heaven.
Yes.
And what does heaven feel like? Relaxed?
Like, relaxed, like this tension. Like now we have another space in home that we didn't have before, because it's impossible to go out when they are there, because they make poo and everything, and they bring like these branches and everything. So it's like. So that was the first day. The second day we buy a new like cover for the bed, a big white, like full white. So it was very funny because the first day we put it, it would seem like we turned on the light in the room, like the thing was like the light was like reflecting in this thing, you know. It was like so yeah, for sure that was an improvement. And
so for each improvement, it's not the improvement that's that important, it's the state of mind. That's what we're focused on. So when you share the improvement, please share how it affected your mind. How was your mind before? Feeling, not thought. And how is your mind after?
Well, basically, it's funny, but it's very hard to sleep right now. And now the bed looks so white that we really want to jump into the like clouds and just sleep. So now we are taking a little bit more time for sleep, but this sleep comes with rest, so we are resting better.
So when I say feeling, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels, that particular change feels like pleasant. Pleasant.
Okay, so that's pleasant. So you feel relaxed, more relaxed? Or?
Yes,
or
relax and calm, but there is some sense of pleasure there. Like I don't know how to describe that, but it's like pleasure.
Okay.
It feels pleasant.
So category of like. It's in the category of like.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like.
Okay.
And the most important for me was about the phone, because I like to see a lot of. I'm sorry, but I like to see a lot of fights. I usually see, I don't know, kickboxing and martial arts and all the things there. So I change a little bit the topic, and I start to see Krishna only, like images of Krishna.
So for your sense of sight, you went from the rajasic, like fighting and boxing, to watching Krishna videos only.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. How did that affect your mood, your feeling?
Wow, it's amazing. It feels much more like just incredible, like relaxed, happy, stimulating, and inspiring also.
Wow.
And now I want to start to painting again, just to say something. Yeah. So it was very nice. Yeah.
Very good job. Yeah. That's a lot of changes in 1 week.
Yeah.
Very good job. And so you noticed that your mind, and all 3 changes with the balcony or with the pigeon, you know, the bedspread and these 3 senses of sight, all 3 gave you a positive effect of feeling pleasure, definitely category of like, and then within there, pleasure, comfort,
inspiration,
relaxed, inspired,
stimulating.
stimulated. Now, what do you mean by stimulated? Because that's like not really sattvic.
Yeah, stimulation have like, of course, different ways to stimulate, but this stimulation is in terms of sadhana, for example, or increase.
Okay, so
meditation.
inspired to do more sadhana.
Yes, yes, and I find it stimulated because I feel physically my body having impulses to, okay, I will stand up right now and take the japa, you know.
Good.
So, yeah.
Very good. Wonderful job. That's inspiring. I'm going to go get a white bedspread. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now let's switch gears just for a minute and go online and see who wants to share. Janava, you've got your hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, first of all, at the beginning of before the week, I felt frustrated, usually, to not do what I would like to do. So I made a whole list of how I want to sattvize my my week, and I realized that doing that list made me more in awareness and in balance. I felt completely balanced and excited about all the things that I wanted to do, which was so I did some decluttering, some cleaning, and I did also balance. I mean, in the sense that I also did relaxation time, which was really helpful. So I was in action to declutter some things in my black, and also I was in my bed while listening to peaceful music and doing exercise, and I felt really satisfied with myself.
Okay, hold on one sec. So it was blanking out a little. I just want to make sure I caught what you said. So you said that you were decluttering your things, right? And that you were listening to peaceful music while you were decluttering? Okay.
No, I was listening to peaceful music while smelling some essential oils and laying down on my bed.
Okay, so
I was doing this relaxation.
Okay.
And
so you were trying to sattvasize more than one sense, it sounds like. You were smelling, you were hearing, and you were seeing. The declutter was seeing. So 3 senses.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And how did it affect your state of mind?
Yes. I felt very satisfied.
Very satisfied?
Oh, it was very peaceful. Yeah.
I think there's just a little delay. Sorry, you said very peaceful?
Yeah, I just, yes, and satisfied.
Wonderful.
And yeah, just to find this balance of finding time for myself and also doing some other action that will declutter or will clean my house is also like I felt that I was cleaning my mind as well.
Nice.
And like
very good.
So I felt also some negative feelings of frustration going away while I was also mopping the floor. So that was really satisfying.
Interesting. And what did you say at the beginning? You said something about something about your awareness. At the very beginning, you were saying
yes, because when I made that list, I was like, okay, Janava, then you're doing this to be more peaceful, or you're doing this to be more sattvic. So putting my awareness in that action made me realize that I was more present, and therefore I had more results.
Okay. So you were more present to the fact that you were trying to be more peaceful or more sattvic? More sattvic.
Yes.
And what's the difference in your mind between being more peaceful and being more sattvic?
I mean, it's both. I was sattvic and peaceful. Compared to last week was when I was frustrated, it's definitely like day and night.
Right. But you said, are you doing this to be more peaceful or are you doing this to be more sattvic? So how are they different in your mind?
I need to think more. I did that to be more sattvic, because I need, I wanted to be satisfied with myself. I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe
So to be sattvic, because you said your awareness was that you asked yourself, are you trying to do this to be more peaceful or to be more sattvic? And then I was just wondering what your answer was, and now it sounds like you're saying you wanted to be more sattvic.
I mean, I wanted to be more sattvic, and doing this action made me feel more peaceful and more satisfied with myself. That was the outcome of being more sattvic, actually.
Right. Okay. So being more sattvic, the outcome was that you felt more peaceful. So being more sattvic was more like the changes you made. That's how you're defining sattva. Okay. Very good. So you felt more peaceful, and
Yes.
And how long did that last? That feeling of peace.
I think quite a while. It lasted because I had also this feeling of being satisfied with that I had, so it stayed until now. It's still there. I still want to do it next week.
Okay, good. Very good.
To do the list.
Very good.
Go back at it again.
So far everybody said that it's really affected your mind and made it more peaceful.
The only difficult thing.
Yeah?
Yes.
The difficult?
It was the taste. I tried to eat more fruits, which I did, but I'm still attached to other type of food.
Yeah. So you can work on that, and I would say that there you can sattvasize your sense of taste without forcing yourself to eat something you don't like. It may not be that you have to eat more fruit.
Yes.
You could find other sattvic things.
Okay.
Because then it's kind of rajasic to force yourself to eat something you don't like, so.
But thank you.
Good job, Janava, very good job. It's inspiring what you shared, thank you. Okay, anybody else in this group here who wants to share? Sattvasizing a sense? Okay, let's see online. Who else is there? Ayendra, would you like to share?
Yes, Haribol.
Haribol.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, so this week was very difficult for me. I tried to sattvacize my sense of sense of sight and sense of hearing by stopping completely checking of any news. So yes, so I stopped hearing any discussion about news, and I stopped also to reading them. And up to now, I have done it only when I have been in Vrindavan, and never outside of Vrindavan.
Wow.
So now it's my first week without news outside of Vrindavan.
Okay, good job. That's hard to do. That's a big change.
This is, yes, and I got some understanding why it is so important for me, why it was important for me. Because I like too much to argue, and I argue especially with my father. Now I'm in St. Petersburg and my father is in the next room, so the next 2 weeks will be even more difficult for me. But in the same time, I try to stop arguing.
Good job, very good job.
But still, it's it's like for my manas, I feel it like some missing, like a drug.
Oh.
Like a drug missing.
Yeah.
So it's really, this moment is difficult. On the other hand, when I was traveling to here, during this time, during travels, I always before I always heard some news and some just to have time. And here I could listen more lectures of biology, which I wanted.
Good.
To hear on time.
Very good.
So yes, it was quite positive, but still difficult. Yeah.
So you stopped listening to news and you stopped reading news, and it sounds like
Right.
you replaced some of that time that you used to spend listening to or reading news, listening to more of Babaji's classes?
Right.
Good.
Right.
So that's how you sattvasize. So you decrease the rajas and tamas by cutting out the news, and you increase the sattva at the same time by listening to more Babaji's classes. But at the same time, your manas is like, give me my drugs. I need that.
Right.
You know, I need,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's also, the manas and ahankara are like, I'll get into ahankara when I talk, but I call them a pair of dumb criminals, you know. Because it's like, the manas is like, we should do this. And ahankara is like, yes, let's do it. You know, and so there's not a lot of like intelligence there, you know, and so your ahankara is like, okay, let's try to figure out a way that we can get the news, but make it sound like, you know, it's okay, you know, like, so it's like trying, and then what it does is if your buddhi's not strong, it like uses and abuses your buddhi. It'll be like, buddhi, come over here, and buddhi's like innocent if it's not too smart, if it doesn't catch on to the ahankara's tricks yet. And it'll be like, Buddhi, give me a really good reason why it is that we can listen to the news. And it's like, I'm only going to, okay, Buddhi's like, I know, you're only with Dad for 2 weeks. I mean, it's only 2 weeks. Just listen to it for these 2 weeks while Dad's here so you can argue. Because otherwise, how are you going to be able to stand him? You know, and then those three work together. And we're like, yes, okay, let's do it. You know, so you have to use your, you know, superpower sattva buddhi and be like, I'm not going to let yourself get tricked by your ahankara. To reinforce not only manas, but the samskara of listening to the news. Those are all the 4 parts of the mind in a nutshell. But so try to see how that's working, you know, and remove any feelings from it and just watch how that is going on. You have a very well-established samskara of watching the news, and you get quite a lot of satisfaction out of that. And so it's going to be very hard to break it. That's why you said it feels like an addiction. Kind of is, you know. So that's very hard to break, you know. And every day you don't do it, and you watch Babaji's classes, you're making a new samskara that's going right beside that one. It's going to be stronger. Even if you pat yourself on the back, maybe if we all can clap and celebrate for him, we'll make a samskara like, yay, good job, woo! You know, you're awesome. You know, so now that's going actually as a new samskara right next to the one. So next time you think that the whole class of people were clapping for you, that for the whole week you didn't watch the news, you remember that, you know. And also when you listen to Babaji's classes, it's delightful, right? You're getting a lot of joy out of that. So just know that you're building a new strong samskara that's going to be stronger eventually than the default samskara of watching the news, you know. But your ahankara is working very hard. You know, it doesn't like it when your dad talks about the news and he knows more than you. Makes your ahankara feel weak, feel threatened, feel less than. You have nothing to fight back with. So you have to tell your ahankara, just be quiet, you know. Your measure of smartness has nothing to do with how much your dad knows about the news compared to you. You know, you could actually raise the level of conversation and start talking about something you know about that he doesn't. You know, you don't have to go and talk about that. Talk about bhakti yoga. Bust out with the Bhagavad Gita and start reading some shlokas, you know? You don't have to go to his level. Go to your level. Take the conversation to your level, you know? So those are some things you can think about to keep yourself strong over the next 2 weeks with your dad. Thank you very much for sharing. Good job.
Thank you so much for support.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good job. I saw Deepa, but she might have gone. Deepa, did you want to share? Her hand was up before.
Yes, actually, Tanmay wanted to share one.
Okay. Tanmay
She never calls me Tanmay at home. So, thank you for doing this classes, Joshi. Very useful.
My pleasure.
The one thing that stuck with me last time was you said that don't listen to disturbing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that there is a war going on in the Middle East, and it's very disruptive to universities across the US. Not only universities, but you know, there's big consequences looming. I also have a trip that I might have to take to the Middle East. So I've been following the news, especially the Israel-Hamas war. So I read Jewish newspapers and the Israeli newspapers. And they're extremely disturbing, I have to say. And I've been following them for a while. And what I noticed was that I get irritable.
Mm-hmm.
when I read the news on that wall. And but that's where I am. I have only noticed it. I haven't changed anything.
Okay. Now I'm glad you're sharing this. That's what I was saying at the beginning. Like if you haven't changed, it's okay. There's very good reasons probably why you're not changing. So it's good to share that and say, you know, it actually affects me. It could affect me, my trip, my job, my whatever else, you know, my family, my life, you know. So that's why you're not changing, because you actually need the information, but you're noticing that it's really disturbing to your mind, you know. So what I would maybe invite you to try is to say, okay, do I really need the news? Like, could I possibly just not listen for 1 week, like Ayandra is doing? Is there something that's so important that I need to, like, you know, are you on the red phone to the president that because you're going to have to, like, you know, you're in charge of the Air Force and you got to, like, deploy the planes or something? No. You know, it could affect you, but probably you could ask your wife or someone else who listens to the news, a family member, say, hey, if it's going to affect me, you're listening anyway, so just let me know. But otherwise, I am, like, taking the week off. Just the week. Then you can go back to it, just to see how it affects your mind, just to see how calm it can be without that. Just for an experiment.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, try it and report back. We're meeting again next week. I'd love to hear, you know. And if you can't do it, Tanmeji, for a week, try it for 3 days. You know, try something. And if you can't do it for 3 days, try it for a day. Because your mind is very sensitive. I mean, you've heard everybody's example. Everybody felt like an immediate effect. So maybe even you take a day off or 2 days off, weekend or something, you know what I mean? Maybe a week is too long. Because it really is kind of an addiction. The ahankara needs that, because your ahankara, your sense of identity is, I'm a father, I'm a this, all the things that you are. And if it's going to affect your ahankara directly, your ahankara is like shaking. Who I am, that's affecting who I am, you know? So it's scary, actually, to let go. So you might have to let go only a little bit. A day or two. Is that helpful?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll try.
We'll see. Try. Ready. Okay, anyone else before we go into... Okay, Purushottamji. I think you're... Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I think since before this program, we already had some talk about the changing of the light color shirts than the dark color, and I immediately implemented. I gave up all my dark color shirts and bought the new light color shirts.
Wow.
And it did have some impact, but I was not immediately following or seeing it, experiencing it.
Okay.
And since I'm retired, I don't really care for so much for the news or any other things. If there is something critical, my wife informs me that.
You hear that, Tanmeji? You hear that, Tanmeji? This is good. That's what I was just telling Tanmay. Like maybe his wife could tell him. Maybe Deepa could tell him the news that he's missing, you know, if it's critical.
Yeah, so we also have a helper, and she does quite a much nice job for organizing. So that portion is also not done. But I do spend most of my time in hearing the Babaji's lectures, read the lectures, read the things.
Good.
But I still have a question. My mind still is always thinking about future.
Okay, hold on. So hold on. Let me just make sure, because the next part of this talk, the last part, is questions. Now we're talking about Sattvasizing a sense. So if nobody has anything, we'll just segue right into questions and we'll stay with you. Let me just double check that nobody has their hand up. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears. So now let's move to the final thing here, okay? So I just want to remind you how to ask a sattvic question. Short, to the point, clear, and related to your personal growth. I don't want to hear about like your partner, how to sattvasize your partner, or you know what the problem with this or that, or some philosophical thing. You know, this is very practical, and it really is relates exactly to what you're trying to change and what we're discussing. Okay, so go ahead, Purushottamji.
Yeah, my question is still, despite all of the things and effect we did, my mind is still never at present. It's always thinking something in future. And how can I avoid that? Bring that always to the present, you know. I mean, sometimes I bring it immediately, but then immediately runs to the future.
Okay, so let's look. Did you do this kind of detailed plan?
Yeah, well, as I said, Monday I do wear these light colored shirts. We don't have messy kitchen. I do sit in a garden or take a walk in the gardens every evening. I look at when I chant my japa, I do the mantra board.
No, 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 no. I don't mean you have to follow my plan. I mean, this is a very detailed plan of the issues that I personally had, So you don't have them. So to answer if you're doing my plan is not my question. This is the level of detail I went day by day for my sense of sight, what I would do. So you're asking a question, I think, without having implemented in a very thorough way this type of plan for every sense. This is a 7-day plan where I increased sattva every day. I did one thing and I would decrease rajas and tamas, according to me, stuff that I have going on. So now you have to make a plan like that for you, very detailed. If you're already wearing a white shirt, then that wouldn't be part of your plan. If you don't have too many emails, you'd have to, this is a very detailed, very technical, and not technical, but very, very detailed way, because obviously if your mind is still going in the future, then that means that you haven't done enough with sattvasizing your senses. Just say you've sattvasized them like this. You spend the next month saying, okay, for the whole week I'm doing the sense of sight, and I'm going to make a plan like this and implement it, and see what a change I've made. Then now for the next week I'm going to do the sense of hearing, the sense of smell the next week, the sense of, every week one sense, and this level of detail of a plan. And then also I'm going to ask my wife, who I live with, what do you think? Because you're like, oh, I'm wearing white shirt and I'm doing this. And she's like, yeah, but you X, Y, and Z, So have a person who's close to you point out the things that you are doing that you're not seeing. It's very hard to see yourself. It's very hard to see all the ways you're not doing it. What we're very good at is reporting the things that we did do, the way we, the things we are doing. So I think that you could probably, benefit a lot if you can make that plan for the next 5 weeks. One sense of sight each week. Every day write down what you've noticed with your mind. Like in the group here, everybody's sharing, Then just say you've done all that, which would probably take more than 5 weeks because some of these senses might take longer until you really get a relief and feel better. Then after all that, let's see where your mind is. Every day, watch your mind too and say, okay, am I still going in the future? Is it still to that extent that I'm always in the future? Because if you keep, like Jana was saying, her awareness is on her mind, then you notice more and more subtle things, and then you can start noticing what's triggering it to go in the future. What am I avoiding right here, right now? There's something, most likely a very big fat samskara that you're not aware of, that's triggering you to not want to be in the present moment. Something painful, most likely from the childhood. That's why we don't...
But I did notice that there was one conflict which I had decided, this conflict, whether either I solved it going through the rajasic or sattvic. And when I analyzed that, and I was able to resolve that conflict by the sattvic action.
Very good. Yep. Good job. It takes a while, I think, to implement this if you're serious about it in a very detailed way. And once we do that, the whole reason I'm doing this for Manas first is because if Manas is like unhinged, like that parrot who was cursing and going crazy, if Manas is unhinged, when we move very soon, we're going to move into ahankara, and we're going to go deep study of ahankara for quite a while. It's going to be very hard to even hear what I'm saying or see it in yourself if your manas is like in the future, if it's anxious, if it's angry, if it's depressed, if it's thinking about the chocolate cake. So that's why I'm trying to have you really be serious about sattvasizing your sense of sight. So when I'm teaching you about the next part, which is going to be the hardest one, it's really hard to hear about ahankara, especially when we shine the spotlight on your own. It's really hard, super hard, So how are you going to be able to get that if you've made just one kind of small change with your senses? So what I would say is, take it. That's why I made a very detailed plan that you can follow for yourself, just the concept, for yourself, and try to really aggressively do it one sense each week, before we get to ahankara. I'm not starting on ahankara till January. So next week we're going to do one more last lecture on manas. Then there's 2 weeks off, So if you take it, you can actually get this done in the next 5 weeks. Then you'll be much more in control. Your manas at least will be much more sattvasized when you're ready to hear the ahankara stuff.
Well, I will excuse myself because next week I will be out for the whole week. I will not be able to participate in any presentations or anything.
Okay, we'll miss you.
Yeah, but thank you. This is, I think I fully understand the essence of this because bhakti is nothing but awareness. And only through the sattvic you can become aware and then you can really relate with the Lord and His devotees and everything else. Otherwise, it's not possible. So this is the most essential thing which you and Babaji have created and helping us to bring out to this level. And I really see that. It's very important.
Yeah, everything's by Babaji's grace. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this accountability ally, I just want to highlight before I answer any other questions, okay? So what I would suggest is find somebody, ideally somebody taking this class. It doesn't mean they have to be sitting here or they have to be on Zoom. A lot of you know each other and have already existing relationships, but pick somebody who's also serious about sattvasizing their senses. And I know that's a hard word to say, but just think exercising. A lot of people probably have a common idea that we understand that it's good to exercise your body, right? So sattvasizing sounds the same. Exercising, sattvasizing. It's sattvasizing your mind. We're trying to exercise the mind by cleaning it and by developing some muscles in the mind that it doesn't have right now, you know? So I would suggest this accountability ally, finding one person and then doing this, meet with them once a week. Tell them, okay, this week, you could even have it be like, let's both do our sense of sight. And let's report to each other. How did you sattvasize your sense of sight? Because it's so nice when you're working with someone and the other one's like, oh, here's what I did. Like when you heard people sharing, it's inspiring. It's like, oh, that's not so bad. I could do that, or I could do that. I could see how that could work. Maybe, you know, so it's very effective to have an accountability ally where you share your goals and you make sure that your goals are very specific, very clear, measurable. There's something called SMART goals. So you can look that up if you don't know what it is, but that's very important when you say what your goal is. You know, then you can know, did I do it or not, and how well did I do it? And then you meet with them, have a call with them, discuss, and then they can troubleshoot with you. You can talk about your secrets to success. They're not like a lifetime partner. It would be good to limit the amount of time it is. Say, okay, let's meet for half an hour, and let's talk about these things, or whatever, you know, and that's it. You know, so it doesn't have to be your friend. It can just be someone who's in the class who wants to do it as well. But I think that would be very good, because then you can know, okay, for the next 5 weeks, let's do one sense each week. And by the time we start in an ahankara, we're more ready to go. And then you've made some new samskaras. In other words, they'll become automatic programs if you keep acting on them, you know? So I just wanted to suggest that. So now let's go to the question, to anyone else who has a question. Jaya Ji.
Yeah, I was just not sure if I understood it completely, because I heard about sattvasizing, most people saying that I cleaned my room, I did not watch this program or something. Does that also apply to other things? Let's say we want to clean up the ashram or the guest house. Is it also applicable? Or?
Yeah. It's whatever you're seeing. So just say, most people were sharing, I think, from the sense of the sight, whereas a lot of them, right? So whatever you're seeing. So just say you go down the street to one of your friend's houses and you clean it. That's not really good for sattvasizing your sense of sight if you're just visiting the friend one time for an hour. But if you have the ashram clean and the temple, you see that all the time. So it's whatever you're going to have regularly. You just think that that's food. When I say input to the sense of sight, that's food. You don't want to feed your eyes junk food. You know, so whatever you're regularly going to see. That's how you could sattvasize your sense of sight. Does that make sense?
Yes, so that means we make sure that the ashram is clean. We make sure that the temple is clean.
Yeah.
That is the sattvasizing of our mind.
Yeah. You don't necessarily have to clean it yourself, but just make sure it looks in an organized way and it's in a clean way. So then just think, how many hours in the day is food going into your eyes from looking in the temple at the ashram? It's almost all day long. You know, so we don't realize these small little things, like even just the color or something looks disheveled or messy, that's going in and it actually weighs you down.
Right.
That's why I think when Krishna Das was saying we put the white cover on our bed, it was like a little stimulating. It's like, woo, it looked like glow in the dark, right? It really affects your mind, these things, but it's so subtle and we're so used to it. You know, like for me when I travel and then I come back to my room, then I see it with a fresh set of eyes. But I've been so used to just sitting there and working in it, I don't realize. And I'm like, oh, I should move that. That's in the way. Like you were saying, Kamala, this table that you always hit your leg on. I had a table like that in my room too. And I was like, I'm always getting bruised on my leg, but I'm just always in a rush. But I didn't even see that I should move that, you know? So that's the idea. Keep things clean and clear. And that's just a sense of sight. Then you can think, okay, are there some bad smells around here that I'm regularly exposing myself to that I didn't realize? Are there some bad tastes that I'm regularly, old food or old spices even, you know? Are there some, even with your clothing, is there, like now it's winter here, are you wearing something that's wool but itchy, not a soft wool? That's aggravating all day long, actually. You know, if you think about it. So could I wear something soft instead for the sense of touch, you know, and the sense of sound? Am I hearing things that are annoying and are aggravating me, you know? Got it? Thank you. That's a good question. Good clarification. Any other questions? I can't see. Let me see in the classroom online. Is there anybody with questions? No, no questions. Okay. Yes, Krishnada.
Yeah. Like, what about, when I was doing the exercise, I noticed different senses, different gunas. Not all of them are in tamas, not all of them are in rajas, like different. So, what about using the other gunas for a step forward to the sattva?
Yes, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. So basically, right now imagine that one of your senses, or even just, okay, let's not even do the senses, just your mind, you're feeling tamasic, which we all feel. You have to be in the mode of tamas to even be able to sleep, you know? So just say that you're feeling tamasic, especially now, it's getting to be nighttime, bedtime here, right? And you're starting to get heavy, and that's good. So whenever you're in the mode of tamas, if your goal is to get to sattva, you cannot circumvent rajas. You have to use rajas to get into sattva. You have to use it, so that's right. If your goal is to get into sattva, which it may not always be, actually that white blanket on your bed may actually be too sattvic to sleep. You may have to be like, well, we're going to bring the white blanket into the living room on the couch, you know, and we're going to put a dark blue blanket on the bed. It's true. You know, but anyway, that's a side thing. But the question is, how do you get to sattva? If you have to first figure out where you're at, you know. And one thing I would offer or suggest, if you haven't done so already, is you can take a mind type survey to see. So on our website, on the Vedic Psychology Institute website, it's myvedicpsychology.com, there's, Babaji and I created a mind type survey. So you can, and it's situational. It's not just like yes and no. It actually says in a situation, what would you do? You know, and then based on those your answers, it's going to tell you you're sattvic, predominantly rajasic, or predominantly tamasic. So you have to get a snapshot of where you stand in order to then decide, okay, now where do I go from there? So if you're already in rajas, then you do the sattvasize your mind, right? But if you're not in rajas, if you're like, oh shoot, I'm predominantly tamas, maybe take it a few days in a row to make sure that you're like regularly tamasic, which is no problem, but then you have to do some more rajasic things for your five senses to first get into rajas to then go to tamas. That's a very good point, a very important point. Yeah, thank you.
And I have one more about the plan. Like, if it's fine to elaborate the plan for each senses, because we don't only work in the sight, we also work in smell part and some other things. So it's good if we make a plan for all the senses and work on that, like progressively, for keep ourselves in that stage. Or
what do you mean?
Yeah, to make a plan of how to live, so to say, like what to look, what to smell, what to, all of these things, for keep by environment constantly impulse to sattva, or if it is fine just that the life goes mixed and there is no plan, just when we feel that we are too much of something, we change. That's...
So I would say right now, because it's new, you know, I would say just, the plan can come later, but right now, I would say like, okay, this week, you know, today's already Saturday, so starting Monday or Sunday, I'm going to just do sight for 1 week. And then every day take some notes. So then you're like, oh, okay, actually, this was very effective. I'm going to make sure in my plan that I'm going to eventually have, once I've done all five senses, and I've gotten feedback with myself for each one, then I'm going to have my master plan and say, for the sense of sight, we definitely need to always do these three things. And these ones, they weren't so effective. They were more subtle, or they weren't that, I didn't notice. But these three, like for example, you know, we probably shouldn't have the white bedspread on our bed. It's too stimulating, too sattvasizing. I'm awake, you know, fine. So that's one thing. So we know, or whatever. So you'll get it if you stay with being very aware of how each thing is affecting you each day. I would get a journal for sattvasizing your mind, and every day make a little note so you know. you know? And you also don't have to pick the hardest things first. So you can try to pick, you know, like with like Tanmay-ji's example, you know, the news sounds like a really hard one. It's important for him, right? So Tanmay-ji, you wouldn't have to pick that one as the first thing. You know, that could come later, you know, maybe, and maybe not as intensely as just not seeing it at all. And pick some easier wins first, so you can start feeling more sattvic from some easier things to start doing first, you know. But yes, I think it's a good idea to have a plan that comes after, you know. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll meet one more time next week. One last little Manas Hara. I would love to hear if any of you try this week to do it. If you, number one, get an accountability ally, we can talk about how that's going. And then also if you sattvasize one of your senses, I'd love to hear about that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, I have a question. Is this Jiva event that I had with the children was a Sattvic event? Can we call it like Sattvic event?
How does that have to do with you sattvasizing your sense?
Yeah, I just was in the class before. I was thinking, oh, what about sense of action, and if this action, like sense, exists, because I'm not very familiar with other. I don't remember 4 or 5 senses that like Vedic culture have. So I don't know if these exist and.
I think you should watch the other classes I've done, because I went in detail with each of the 5 senses. So it's not like a random thing what the senses of Vedic culture are. Watch the other 5 classes before this on the sense of each sense, and then you'll probably understand better what to do.
Yeah, I understood what to do. Just, yeah, I had the question. But okay, thank you.
I understand her question because we was discussing that in the Vedas they are talking about 11 senses, including the mind. So the other 5, which is action, like the word, the sense of action, of movement, and like.
So action is rajas, and we're not talking about that. It's bringing in something else, you know. So you're bringing in other things, and this is like a confused mind. This is tamasic. That question in this thing, you know. So try to be sattvic, which is, you know, I said ask a clear question that relates to you changing yourself, that relates to the stuff. So it's not, I'm not just here to field any question about other things that you're bringing in that are not introduced here. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay? So I'll see you guys next week.